Here we have a very crowded table covered with different distance visual assessments. I'm going to be taking you through them one by one. We have some single symbol tests, we have some crowded tests, we have some tests that record measurement in Snellen notation, and we've also got tests which record acuity in Logmar. I will be explaining about how you record distance acuities on Tuesday. The first distance test that I'm going to look at in more detail is the McClure reading type for children. Now you will remember that this test appeared in the practice video for near assessments. That's because at the end of the book there is a Snellen chart. So you'll remember that when we opened it up, there were the grades down the side. And then at the very bottom there's a tab that says test types. So if you open that, you'll get this page and then turn it over and you'll get a chart like this. So it's got one large letter at the top with a value of 60, two smaller letters underneath, and then on the next page the more letters as the lines progress down and they become smaller as well. Now if you flip the page over, you will find that you've got another test and it's all written in capital letters. So the first test was written in more child-friendly script. I think that would be a good way to describe it. There we go. Not easy to get it into shot, but there we are. So you would carry out this test, generally speaking, at 6 meters. However, if you couldn't find some place with that amount of room, you could carry it out at 3 meters. Depending on the distance that you are away would then affect how you record that acuity. But as I've said, I'll explain more about that on Tuesday. So you could actually hold this test at 1 meter if the child had significantly poor vision. When you are testing the distance vision of a child or young person, you need to choose your spot very carefully. The child or young person should not be standing where they are facing the window. Their back needs to be to the window, or light can come in from the side. Also, make sure that the child or young person is standing with their back to a solid surface, whether that's the wall or even just against a table. In that way you will notice that as the test progresses, if they move forward, you will see that they've moved away from the wall, or again if they're leaning away from it as well. So you would hold the test up like this from your chosen distance, 6 meters or 3 meters. And you're going to ask the child or young person to read from the top letter down. When they are doing the test, please do not point to the letters like this. Just hold the test up and let the child or the young person read. You're not there to help them. You want to see how smoothly their eyes are going to move from line to line. It is also interesting to know if they miss any lines. And there will come a point where they're either moving forward, bending forward, or they try and take a step forward. And you have to tell them to go back and to try that line again. Always finish the test off on a line that they are able to read successfully. I should have said that for the near vision test as well. Always finish with success. That's important. Look very carefully at head position. Is there a head tilt or a head turn. And look as well for the child or young person speaking the letters less fluently. You will see that each line has a value and record carefully where the young person or the child stops and they're unable to read the letters any further. The next assessment I'm going to look at is the K picture test. It's very often used with young children. This is because it contains many familiar elements to a young child. Let's start off by looking at this recognition booklet. And you can use this in conjunction with this key card, which can be used throughout the assessment. So with the key card or with this recognition book alone, you would ask the child to name the picture or to match it to the key card. Now it should be noticed that there are more pictures in the recognition book than there are on the key card. So you have to be aware of that when you are doing the test itself. This is just the screening part that you do at the beginning to make sure that the test is suitable for that young child or person. So we have a house, then we have a duck or an airplane, a flower and an umbrella, a fish and a cat, scissors and a car, a hand and a train, a man and a teapot, or more likely called a kettle, a dog and a cup, a Christmas tree and a boat, a clock and a boot, a bird and a van or a lorry, and finally an apple. So you can see that some of these do appear on the key card. So I now have 3 different things, 4 actually, that I want to show you. So I'm going to move the key card out of the way and the recognition booklet. So this first part that we're going to look at is the screening book. And at the back, it's worth pointing out that there are instructions here on how to use it, but I'll tell you very quickly that you are meant to use this booklet at 6 meters, although you can actually use it at 3 as well. So when you pick it up, have the title at the front, and then when you flip over the page, you'll see down the right hand side there are different tabs. So the first one says 60 house. So just like the letters on the McClure Snellen chart, each picture has a value. And when I flip it over, that side would then, the reverse side here would be facing the child or young person. I'm going to turn it round. So there we have our house at size 60. Okay, so that would be fine to use that one. The child could either tell you it was a house or they could match it on the key card. So you might choose to do them all, although that's quite a long test. If that one was correct, you might then go down to the 36 size. So at 36 we've got a cup, which appears on our key card. We've got our van, which also appears, and we've got a boot. So either or any of these would be good to choose. Let's go for the cup. So I'll put my finger underneath the cup tab, flip it over, and there indeed is our cup. So once we've done 36, there's 24, size 24, size 18, and size 12. That's the apple, which also appears on our key card. And there we go, flip it over, turn it round, there we are. Now if I keep the page, the book on this side, when I now move to the right, you will notice that they're getting smaller. Pictures are on both sides. So you go through 9, 6, 6, 6 would be regarded as being normal vision, but we actually go further in this screening booklet. So we go to 5, size 4, and size 3. So if I go for house size 4, you'll see that much smaller. And remember, you're doing this at 6 meters if you can, if not 3. And the smallest one, we've got 3, a fish, a van, and a clock. Let's take the fish. And there it is, single symbol on this test. So just one symbol appears on the page. So that's the screening book. There's also a slightly smaller book, and this is designed to be used at 3 meters. So it says that, but also underneath it's got VA, which stands for visual acuity, 330 to 33. So you know the parameters rather of this test. So just like the other booklet, we've got our tabs down the side: boat, van, and teapot. So we would need to make sure that if we're going to be using the key card, that we could only use the van for this one because we don't have the others on our key card. So there we have our van. So it's limited in terms of what you can choose because of the symbols appearing on the key card. So if the child or young person is unable to name it, it's slightly restrictive. So the next one, we've got the boot, the cup, and the cat. So we could use the boot or the cup for this one. So let's choose cup, and here we are. Same as last time, you get to the bottom, turn it round, and it goes smaller: 3, 6, 3, 4.5, and 3, 3 at the end. And it's the umbrella, because it doesn't appear, but there we go, single symbol, 3 meters. So that was the 3 meter book. Now, the next thing I'm going to show you is this card here. And it's a little bit misleading because you will notice that it says the K-Picture Near Vision Test. So you're thinking, well, is this a test of near vision? Well, yes and no. Near vision only in terms of the distance that the card is held. You will see that it says at the top left corner there at 33 centimetres. So you are only holding this card 33 centimetres away, and the young person again can either name or match according to the key card. But the acuities are given as distance way, so you'll see 660 down the side, 636, 624. And that's because if you think about the pictures that we've seen so far, particularly in the screening book, if you think about the size of the pictures at 660, these have been scaled to be delivered at 33 centimetres. So imagine if you were somewhere where you didn't have 6 metres. You could do this at near distance and it would give you a distance equivalent. But it's not testing near vision to give you an end size, but it is worth noticing. You would have to hold this at 33 centimetres. You'll notice in other near tests, although as I've said, this is not a near test, it was about the child going as close as they wanted. If you weren't at 33 centimetres, you would invalidate the scores down the side. So just that is something to be aware of. I should have also said, when I'm testing at 3 metres or at 6 metres, you can have a piece of string in your bag and have it knotted at 3 metres and 6 metres to make sure that you get the distance correct. I tend not to do that because I'm doing a functional assessment, so I would just measure out 6 metres by taking 6 long strides, which I think are about a metre each. Just very quickly before I move on, and just because it's all K-Picture, this is exactly Same idea again, being tested at 33 centimetres, but you'll notice at the top it says it's a crowded near test, and you will see that the symbols are much closer together and they have a box round them. You will find that when you are doing assessments, the results that you get will not be as good when you are using a crowded tests compared to single symbol tests. So when you are carrying out an assessment, if you can, you should use a crowded test rather than a single symbol test. Crowded tests mimic what it's like to read. When we're reading, we don't read with one single letter on a page. So to get an accurate result, or when we're looking at things, we're better using crowded tests rather than single symbol tests. And again, you will see that at the bottom we've got less crowded. All right, that is the K picture test. The third assessment that I'm going to look at may be familiar to you. This is the bust distance test. On the table I have the first set of cards, and this test can be carried out at a variety of distances: 3 meters, 2 meters, or 1 meter. You can use the real objects that we had for the near assessment, or the child can name or match the pictures. You would start off by presenting each card in set 1 individually. If they are all correct, you can either move on and do all of set 2, or you can miss set 2 and move on to set 3. However, here is the fork from set 2, and you'll notice if I try and hold up the fork from set 1, there is quite a difference in size, so it's probably best just to do the whole of set 2. So fork, scissors, glasses, and spoon. I'll just flip through just to show you that set 4 are spoon and scissors. And again, you're going to record when the child or young person makes an error. Here we have our fork at set 6. And note that down. Unfortunately, I don't have the correct recording sheet with me to show you how to record it, but it is fairly straightforward. Whichever distance that you choose to do, please maintain it for the whole of the test. Don't move forwards. But here is set 9, fork. And again, as with the near test, when it comes to errors, it's more likely to occur between the fork and the spoon, with the tines of the fork blurring together and the child or young person mistaking it for a spoon. This is the Fuchs symbols test. Now this is a test which is very rarely used by services, but I want to expand your knowledge and show you something that perhaps you might not have seen before. This kit comes with your symbols test book and also 4 symbols. So when we open it up, Now this is a test that's done at 6 metres. We have our first two symbols with the value of 60. Nothing on the tabs, unfortunately, with this one. And again, you could ask the child or young person to make or hold up the symbol that you are, the picture that you are pointing to. Again, they could make that on the table in front of them. This is value 36, and so on. It becomes a little bit more complicated at 24. We've got 4 symbols, but we don't have 2 squares. There may be some missing, but or what you may do is just ask the child or young person to show you one specific one that you are pointing to. If you do something like that, always choose one of the symbols that's in the middle. Because of crowding, it's much easier to see the ones at the end, and it's often the ones in the centre that the child or young person will get wrong. So I just quickly move on. We have 18 here. There we go. And then we turn it over. So 6, 12. Again, we can do the same sort of thing. 6, 9. 6, 6. And this test goes on a little further to 6, 5 as well. So this is the Fuchs symbols test. What I now have on the table are 2 tests. On the left, the red, yellow and green books are the Sheridan Gardner test. And on the right, in the pale orange book, we have the revised Sheridan Gardner test. So the 3 books of the original Sheridan Gardner test are actually just the main assessment divided into 3. So we can see from the label on the front of this book that this is testing acuities between 660 to 618. So this tells us that this test is going to be carried out at 6 metres. When we flip the front cover, we're told that the first letter O is the value of 60. Now it's not this one here, it's the one on the opposite side. So as you are the tester, this bit will be facing you, and the letter will be facing the child or young person. But you know if they give you the correct answer, you don't need to stick your head over the top. So again, you can decide whether to give every single letter at value 60. There is a limited range of letters used in this test. Or you can decide if you're going to skip on. Let's do A36, flip over, and there it is. So capital letters, and this goes to 18, A at 18, and O at value 18. If you have everything correct there, going well, we then move on to the next book, the yellow book, and we've got the values at 18. Let's have X, and there we go, and so on down to 6, T6. There we are. Now remember, if you're doing this at 6 metres and they can read all the letters at value 6, then they have perfect vision. But you can go further with the green book, 6.6 to 6.3. So a few more There's 5 in here as well, and so on. But you'll notice it's a test of single symbols, 1 per page. So now let's have a look at revised Sheridan Gardner. It's actually very, very similar. I'm just going to move this out of here. There are instructions. With the revised Sheridan Gardner, you get this rather nice key card. So it's a child or young person is non-verbal, but they can match their letters. They can use this. And that is very helpful actually to have it perspex in some respects for the tester. You know exactly where the child or young person is pointing, no matter which way they're holding it. If they're trying to hide and not show you, you can see through it. So it just, as long as you have glaring lights like you do in my kitchen here, then you're it's actually very helpful. So when we go to the booklet itself, same principles. Open it up, and we've got these letters, but there we go, you can see the tab now. They're only the letters that appear on the key card, that same range, and there we go. There's our X at 24. And so there are less of them, obviously, when you consider that we've managed to, there we go, you can see it better now. We managed to squeeze it all into one book. So there's only one example of 60 or 36, and 1 at 24, 2 at 18, 2 at 12, 2 at 9, sorry, 3 at 9, and 3 at 6. So if you don't have very good visual acuity, you know, and you're only going to have one opportunity to guess the letter at 36, it's perhaps quite a crude and blunt instrument to actually assess distance vision. But that's it, it's the reduced Sheridan Gardner, and only one booklet as opposed to the 3 in the original. Now, interestingly enough, they do have a near vision test, and here it is here. So near test, but it's starting at N18, and it's single letters, not crowded, well spaced out, and again you can use that transparent key card again, and you would be holding this round about, well, really the child could go as close as they wanted to see it, but obviously quite limited in terms of what it's assessing, because it doesn't have the full range here that you would get in McClure, for example, which is crowded as well. So I think fairly limited, but something to show you, just to make you aware that it does exist. 2 more distance assessments, this time by Leah Havaranen from the Precision Vision Kit. Try saying that quickly. And also in the front we have a puzzle. Now you may remember from the near assessment practice video, in the bust assessment, the blue set, I said it was quite a good idea if you could get children used to those shapes because they appeared in other assessments. Well, here are these shapes again. And before we do any of the assessments or look at any of the assessments that are on the table, let's have a quick look at this puzzle. So it's quite a nice little puzzle. You can play with young children to get them to match up the shapes and start giving them names as well if the child or young person has got language abilities. Once we use that side, we can also turn it over. And we can turn our puzzle over too, and we can match by colour as well. It's quite a nice thing to see how easily a child can manipulate those shapes too. So that's, I just wanted to show you that as a precursor before we move on and look at the assessments themselves. going to bring this one forward. This is the single assessment book. Now, we have the key card if the child still needs that, to match the shapes if they are not able to explain what they are. So here is the book. If I hold that up, it's a single symbol book. Gives a bit of information. Now if I flip open the first page, and if we look at the part just under my thumb, it gives acuity, and it tells you here that it's 3 meters. So that tells you immediately what distance you need to be from the child or young person to administer this assessment. And then flip that over. Here's our first picture of our apple or heart, whatever the name it's given. And you will see at the bottom the acuity is 330. There's also Logmar on here as well, 1.0 in the corner. So to do this test, we're going to either do one picture at each, because remember that the 4 symbols come in the same size. That's 330. Now it comes down to 324. So again, we might just choose one of those, skip the rest. And at 39, we've got 2. So you can choose which one you do. It's not crowded, it's still well spaced out. But it's really just to save space. There we go, another 39, and now we're down to 315. And we turn it over, still 315, 312, slightly more crowded, but not completely. 3 over 9.5. 3 over 7.5, 3 over 6, and so forth, and then 3 over 3.8, wow, and then 3 over 3. And we go even smaller than that. And just on, so if you can actually get to 3 over 15, you're doing really rather well. You probably shouldn't be seen by QTVI or TVI, and so on. So that is the single symbol book, and it's very similar for the crowded version as well. But there are more specific instructions which are here. And again, we've got our key card. So here's our crowded symbol book. And you'll notice when I turn it over, the same thing on the inside front cover, 3 meters. And the array of shapes on the page is very different from the single symbol book. And we're starting off here at 3 over 9.5. And how this is done is you are advised to ask the child what is the symbol on the left. So this one here, just beside my finger. So we're only wanting one of those shapes to be called. And again, what's the symbol on the left? So the house. This time it's a circle, so it's 3. So if they get it right, you can flip on. So 3 over 7.5, what's the one on the left? It's the heart. So you might want to flip on. Still 7.5. So 3 over 6, what's the symbol on the left? It's the house, and maybe they're not struggling a little bit. So maybe you want to ask the next one. and maybe they think that that's a house as well. So then what you would do is you would go back, and you would go back to your 7.5 because that's the previous size, and you'd go to the very first one in that size. That's still 7.5. That's 9.5. So go back to this one. Oh, remind me, what was the first one there? That's the heart or the apple. Circle. And if they get 3 out of 4, sorry, when you go back, it's not just the one on the outside. You want the heart and the circle. You want the circle and the square. So they need to get 3 out of 4 correct, and what you're looking for is the middle symbol to be correct 3 out of 4 times. And then you can move on. So it's quite precise. There are some very good instructions with it. And once you get to the end, if you haven't made a mistake,